TSA Administrator David Pekoske, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. So here we are, close to Memorial Day holiday weekend, the summer travel season about to kick off. What are the predictions as far as the number of travelers that your agency has, and what are you and your agency doing to make sure that you're prepared for the crowds and that the lines move quickly?
Sure, and so in terms of predictions, we predict that we're going to be very close to pre-pandemic levels pretty much all through the summer. The summer is the longest sustained period of high tempo operations for TSA and our screening ops. And really the whole month of July is very busy, and generally the first week in August is actually the busiest of the entire time period. But we think right below 2019 pandemic levels, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the same in every airport. Some airports have consistently been above pre-pandemic levels, and some have been below. Generally the international airports are a little bit below. So it's a little bit uneven, but like in general, pre-pandemic levels. And then in terms of our preps, I mean, we've done everything we can to get ready for the summer like we do every year. We just came off a really busy spring break season, I think very successful in general. I mean, we have standards for wait times for passengers, 30 minutes for a standard passenger and 10 minutes or less for a pre-check passenger. And in general, we meet that, but there are times when we can't. I mean, there's just too many people in a capacity-constrained screening environment, but we do everything we can to make sure that the screening is conducted in the way that we need it to be for security and for safety, and that the passenger experience is as good as it can be.
But you're staffed up and ready to go.
We're staffed up and ready to go. I mean, we've done everything we can to be ready for the summer.
What about technology? I know that in some airports, I guess dating back to 2018, the agency has been experimenting with technology that would allow people to go through with liquids. Where do things stand on that, and is there anything else that you're looking at?
Sure, we're looking at pretty much a complete upgrade of the technology throughout the entire screening process. And so we've got new identity verification technology that you'll see in some airports, and some airports is already completely outfitted with that new technology. And what that allows a passenger to do is just take their driver's license, for example, or their passport, insert it themselves into the machine, and then we verify their identity that way, and they don't need a boarding pass for our purposes when they use that technology. So it's better for us for identity verification, better for a passenger because it's one less step and they keep control of their own credential. And what you referenced is a replacement of all of our X-ray technology in checkpoints, and we're upgrading that technology to what's called computed tomography, or CT, CAT scan equivalency in the medical field. Much better in terms of what the technology can detect, and because it takes a 3D image of what's in your check bag, we don't need to ask passengers to take things out of their check bag, because we can literally see around a laptop, for example, that we couldn't see through before. So for a passenger, it means fewer things come out of the check bag and the carry-on bag, and it also means that we can resolve some discrepancies that we might initially see right on the screen rather than doing a bag search. So better for our passengers.
What about liquids? Like, you know,
right.
A lot of people throw out the bottled water and then
right.
they got to buy new.
Yeah.
You know, they're
right.
limited on what they can bring in as far as, you know, ladies with cosmetics, et cetera.
Sure. So those limitations still remain in place, but you know, with the new CT technology, passengers won't have to take those liquids out of their carry-on bag. Just follow the directions of the officer when you get to the checkpoint. The officer will know whether that's necessary or not, but the limits still remain. The other piece of technology that we're upgrading is the Onperson screening technology, and basically that's been upgraded mostly through software upgrades, and the net result of all that will be better ability to detect on-person items of concern and a lower need for pat-downs of passengers. So better security from a security perspective, and then better from a passenger perspective because the number of pat-downs will be fewer.
And what is the impact on getting people through the line as
right.
far as speed?
Yep.
And how soon do you anticipate upgrading all of these airports?
It will take many years to upgrade all of them. We have a very big system, 2,400 check lanes across the entire United States, so it's a big system. We're working as quickly as we can to upgrade the technology. And for passengers, in terms of the time they spend, every single step of the process is a little bit less timely. But as you know, when you go through any system, there are certain parts of the system that tend to be the ones that cause the most time to be expended. And generally the bag search process is time consuming, so that new computed tomography X-ray systems will remove some of the requirement to do bag searches. And then pat downs tend to be time consuming. And with the new software upgrades we have to those machines, we'll do fewer pat downs.
Tips for passengers to get
Sure.
through the airport fast.
Tips for passengers, really some really basic things. One is when you approach the screening checkpoint, have your identity ready. I mean, have your driver's license out, have your passport out if that's what you're going to use, rather than trying to find it when you're standing right in front of the officer. The second piece is when you pack your carry-on bag, a really good practice is to just empty it out completely before you pack it. That way you know everything that's in it. You know, we still have a pretty significant issue with weapons being introduced into the screening process. You know, oftentimes a passenger might forget that they had a weapon in a bag and then pack on top of that weapon. So we really want to make sure that no weapons get into the sterile air of an airport or onto an aircraft. And that can slow the process down significantly for the passenger and for everybody else behind them. And the third piece is when you go through the on-person screening, just take your keys out of, you know, anything metallic, take it out of your pockets, take your belt off. I mean, just follow the directions of the officer as you're going through.
With regards to weapons, is there anything that you as an agency are doing, you know, in addition to reminding people to empty out their stuff beforehand?
Well, we remind them, we put signage up, we publicize when we do take enforcement action, when we find a weapon in a carry-on bag, you know, that will result in a civil penalty, and we publish the civil penalty results in general across the country. So we're trying to provide that deterrent and that reminder to passengers. It's really something that we're getting better at, but we're still seeing, you know, we're seeing higher volumes of passengers compared to last year, of course, because we're continuing to recover from the pandemic. So we're seeing more weapons in checkpoints across the country, but per million passengers, the rate is actually starting to go down. So that's a good sign it's going down, but we're still seeing, you know, one is way too many, and so we really like to get that down to zero if we can.
Face masks and the mandates. Since the decision to no longer enforce those, what has the impact been as far as complaints are concerned that your folks are having to deal with, and the reaction from people that you're, you know, flyers that you've heard from?
Well, you're right. I mean, you know, we are not enforcing a mask mandate. The Centers for Disease Control, which is the country's expert on public health, still recommends that passengers wear masks in indoor settings in public transit systems like airports and like train stations, on board rail cars, for example. So, you know, I would, you know, consider carefully the CDC guidance to continue to wear a mask, but it's a choice that individuals will make now going forward.
But what is the impact then? Are you seeing fewer complaints and are there fewer hassles, you know, incidents related to masks?
We'll see fewer complaints, of course, related to masks because there's no requirement to wear masks. So that's certainly to be expected, that when you don't have a mandate, you'll see fewer complaints. What we are seeing still, though, is there are instances in checkpoints and onboard aircraft where there's physical contact between passengers or between a passenger and a flight crew member, usually a flight attendant or a gate agent. So we're still seeing that, and we're just continuing to analyze that data because the mask mandate has only been rescinded for a couple of weeks. It's not long enough really to make a definite conclusion. But you know, we really want to emphasize that, hey, air travel, any travel in this country, our goal is to make that as safe and secure as we possibly can. And that means that if we can eliminate physical altercations anywhere in that process, we definitely want to get to that point. And we were at that point pretty much prior to the pandemic.
But are those incidents related to masks that are still happening or no?
No, generally not. They're generally related to substance abuse or health issues.
Whose decision was it to no longer enforce the mask mandates? Was it your agency, the White House, or was it just a reaction to what the judge blocked?
Well, the decision was made by the federal district court judge. And so the executive branch of government is implementing that ruling on the part of the judge. And CDC has subsequently come out and recommended to passengers in transit systems indoors to wear masks. So now it's a recommendation to passengers, not a requirement.
And do you anticipate it ever going back to a mandate?
I don't know. I mean, we've tried very hard. TSA is a security agency. We're not a public health agency. And we rely on the expertise of the public health agencies in that regard. So I would leave that up to the really good judgment of the CDC.
And My last question to you, I know President Biden has renominated you for a second 5-year term. Your reaction to that?
I'm thrilled with the opportunity. I have really enjoyed the opportunity to serve the American public and to serve with the men and women in TSA and within the Department of Homeland Security. So subject to the Senate's confirmation, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to continue.
Any other priorities for you as head of the agency? What you as an agency are
Yeah, I have 2 key priorities for the agency. They're the priorities I've had for the last several years. One is to improve the pay for the employees of TSA. We are paid at a different rate than other federal employees are paid, and the difference can be significant. And so, I'm doing everything I can to ensure our pay is equitable with other federal employees. So that's the first and most important thing. The second is to all the technology questions you asked me earlier, and how I describe what we're doing is to do whatever we can to accelerate the development of technology, because one, it's better security. Secondly, it puts a better tool in the hands of the officers who have a very difficult job to do in the first place. And third, the passenger experience is always better as well. So it's a win-win-win in my view, and I'd like to see that continue and actually, if we can, even accelerate it so we get it done quicker.
TSA Administrator David Pekoske, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate it.